Welcome to Judica County. My name's Josh Whitaker. I'm your host. Today we're doing one of our segments entitled Real Estate Closings 101, where myself and Joe Hamer, my partner at McCullers, Whitaker & Hamer, we look at one specific topic under real estate closings that we get asked a lot of questions on daily. This one's daily. So we're going to talk about marital status as it pertains to someone selling real property. So this comes up a lot. We do a lot of real estate closings, and we have a lot of conversations with sellers about when spouses have to sign. And the general overarching rule is if you're selling real property, even if you inherited it in your sole name or took title before you got married or your spouse isn't on the deed, if you are married, your spouse is going to have to sign several documents, deeds, lien waivers at closing so that you can sell the property. So you'll hear this rule a lot. I hear a lot of real estate agents say 1 to buy, 2 to sell. And the 2 to sell meaning if you're married, your spouse is going to have to sign. And people ask us these questions constantly. People fight us on this for all different reasons. But that is the general rule. Now there's some exceptions. What are those, Joe?
So there are exceptions to that rule, but generally speaking, 1 to buy, 2 to sell, plan on your spouse having to attend closings. And when you talk about exceptions, it's kind of difficult to do because there's so many various situations and there's so many different ways that things come up. But I guess the primary way that we see this play out would be the exception of if you have purchased a property, say you purchased it before you were married, or say you purchased it, your spouse wasn't on title. If you guys have since been separated, and you have a recorded either free trader agreement, separation agreement, memorandum of separation, recorded prenuptial agreement, something that basically establishes you as what we call a free trader, then in that situation, assuming again that your spouse isn't on title or is either quit claimed themselves off title, then in that situation you're going to see where you're not going to have your spouse sign.
Yeah, I would say just to explain what the marital interest is, we're not family law attorneys today, so we're not going to get into the family law aspect. But in North Carolina, your spouse, there's all these statutes in place so that you can't disinherit your spouse at your death. And so one of the things your spouse can do is take a life estate in some of the real property you own at death, and that's called the marital interest. So when they sign the deed, they're waiving that. And the exceptions all stem from documents where your spouse can waive that in advance of closing. So a free trader agreement allows both spouses to operate as if you were single, as if you weren't married. And the way it does that is you and your spouse sign waiving the marital interest that we're worried about. And so once that gets put on record, then you can operate, on your own. And the same thing with the separation agreement and the prenuptial agreement. It kind of just establishes that, hey, as spouses, we're waiving these statutory rights that we have in each other's property, and then you can kind of operate on your own.
In that same sense, if you're divorced as well, the divorce would, if you've got a judgment, a formalized divorce decree, it's done, then in that situation, if the spouse wasn't on title previously, right, then again, that interest is extinguished upon the divorce becoming final.
Yeah, if you were on title by yourself to begin with.
So, and now if your spouse was on title with you, then it's a whole other ball game, and you're looking at a situation where you're kind of getting into, that we see a lot where you've got spouses that are estranged in some way, and we see it often.
Yeah.
It can be an awkward situation. The one piece of advice that I can give as an attorney is figure these things out ahead of time. Don't wait until the day of closing. Don't wait until the week of closing. The sooner that you can figure out what's going to happen, because again, none of this is really discussing the distribution of funds. We're talking more about the interest.
We just worry about, we're representing a buyer, and we're just worrying about that buyer getting good, clear title. We don't, if there's $100,000 in profit on the sale, we're not going to make an argument who's entitled to that, a spouse, an ex-spouse. We just know who needs to sign the deed. Two things I'd bring up really quick. We see a lot of times where people own property together. They get a divorce. In the order, the judge orders that one spouse deeds the property to the other spouse, and then that never happens. Like 10 years goes by, no one ever followed up to actually do the deed. So the two spouses now divorced are on title together, and they're remarried. So then everybody has to sign, right?
Yeah.
So you got, the new spouses will have to sign even though they're not on title. So that always is unpleasant.
So yeah, you're gonna have to tell us if you are estranged from your spouse and you're a seller. You're gonna have to tell us how we're going to distribute the proceeds. Again, we're not going to get into any kind of debate or discussion. You're going to have to let us know. And we don't do percentages. You're going to have to give us whole dollar amounts based on whatever your proceeds are, and that's going to be your requirement.
Yeah, if you and your spouse are estranged and you don't have a signed separation agreement that says we're going to split this 60-40, well, we don't do percentages. So what's going to happen is you and your spouse are going to have to sign something that's going to say, all right, we made $100,000. Here's how it's going to be split, and everybody has to agree to it. And if people don't agree to it, you know, the way that the bar looks at this is we're going to have to hold that money until either a judge gives us an order on how to split it, or you two have come to an agreement. And that happens way more than you think it would.
Yeah, you'll both have to sign something telling us. And again, we represent you as the seller insofar as we are preparing your documents. So we don't represent you in any dispute between your spouse. We're not going to answer questions about that. We're not going to be able to answer questions about that. So again, we get folks that are really upset with us sometimes because of that, but it's watch this video and prepare yourself accordingly.
All right. Well, good deal. Hope that was helpful. We'll see you next time.